Kamala Harris does not have a foreign policy proposal. Let's be absolutely clear about that. And all of her statements in regard to the broadening and ongoing war in the Middle East has essentially been in line with what we've been hearing from Joe Biden. So I'm sorry, I can't let that lie stand. She would not calm the situation down in the Middle East. Now, to be clear, I don't believe Trump would either. Trump has just been funded by Miriam Adelson to the tune of $90 million in order to allow Israel to annex the West Bank.
What's up, everyone? In this clip, Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are back, tearing into Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro for defending Kamala Harris. This fiery exchange tackles Harris's foreign policy or lack thereof and her alignment with Biden's unpopular stances. This clip pulls no punches, exposing missteps, double standards, and weak defense in the Democratic Party strategy. Kasparian and Uygur are on a roll here, while Shapiro struggles to make any convincing points. Let's break down why Harris's policies are being shredded and why Democrats may be digging their own electoral grave. Let's get into it.
You know, Kristen, I think what is clear is this is a race not between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, but between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And on that, there are clear contrasts. Kamala Harris wants to cut taxes for the middle class and small businesses. Donald Trump's tariffs and his economic policies would raise costs for middle class families. I think Kamala Harris has a strong and competent approach to foreign policy to try and calm tensions overseas. Donald Trump just wants to throw a grenade and everything and create more chaos and more suffering across the globe. I think you have a clear contrast on freedom between those two candidates. Kamala Harris wants to restore Roe. Donald Trump brags about how he's ripped away the freedom from millions of women across this country. So listen, I think you have a clear contrast between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and voters are going to the polls literally right now all across America, focusing on that choice, not a choice between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Kamala Harris does not have a foreign policy proposal. Let's be absolutely clear about that. And
Anna starts off brutally honest, and she's right. Harris has nothing substantial to offer on foreign policy. Everything she says is just Biden's script, repackaged with a forced smile. The Democrat strategy here is clear. They think if they ignore criticism and keep repeating the same tired lines, the voters will just roll with it. Spoiler alert, they won't.
All of her statements in regard to the broadening and ongoing war in the Middle East has essentially been in line with what we've been hearing from Joe Biden. So I'm sorry, I can't let that lie stand. She would not calm the situation down in the Middle East. Now, to be clear, I don't believe Trump would either. Trump has just been funded by Miriam Adelson to the tune of $90 million in order to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. But please don't lie about Kamala Harris allegedly having a better plan on foreign policy. She does not. In fact, she can't stand Palestinian protesters at any of her events and brushes them off as if they mean nothing. So that's the reality of her foreign policy. I'm not going to let someone lie about that. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, so I agree with Anna on both fronts. First of all, it's not even worth discussing the foreign policy. Whenever you ask her, she says, I know about Palestinian grief. I've heard about it. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to keep sending bombs to kill your family members. Yeah, Trump would kill more of your family members. So you should vote for me. I'm killing less of your family members. No, that's exactly Biden's policy. No difference at all, zero. So now the reason you have to make a difference between you and Biden is because Biden is deeply unpopular. I know that hurts the feelings of Democratic voters.
But it's the truth.
But it is the reality, and he's in the low 30s, sometimes high 20s. Countries going in the right direction is at 25%. If you say that, yes, Biden nailed it, we're going in the right direction, you're going to lose the election. That is super clear. So you have to find a substantive way of saying, this is what Joe Biden did, I appreciate him. You don't have to throw him under a bus, right? But this is what I'm going to do. So one easy way to do it is say, Joe Biden, and I'm going to do this instead of, right? But they don't even have and. That is such bad preparation. And it's really, guys, it's not about pleasing us. Who cares about us? You have to make sure that you get the right message to the voters, otherwise they'll think you're the same as.
This is the Democrats' Achilles heel. By failing to differentiate from Biden, Harris alienated the very voters they need. Voters don't want more of the same. They wanted something bold, decisive, and impactful, and the Democrats couldn't deliver on that.
Biden, and they'll vote against you.
Now let's watch And I want to give Kristen Welker credit because she's one of the few hosts on these morning shows, Sunday morning shows, who actually asks tough questions and tough follow-up questions to both sides. And I really do appreciate that. So she wasn't happy with Josh Shapiro's answer, so she tried again and again. Let's watch.
I understand what you're saying, Governor, but polls do show that more Americans feel as though President Biden's policies have hurt them rather than helped them. So can you name one key policy difference between Vice President Harris and President Biden? How would her administration look different?
By the way, make sure to leave down in the comments below your opinion or thoughts. This is a place for discussion. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Let's get back into it.
You know, I've been really encouraged by the amount of energy that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, has put into focusing on how she will cut taxes for small businesses. The focus on child care tax credit expansion, that's something I've done here in Pennsylvania. We've seen that work to ease the burden on families. I think a focus on those kinds of things is particularly important, and those are the kinds of things I think Kamala Harris has brought specifically to this race.
Those aren't necessarily differences, though. They're an expansion or a tweak to some extent to what's been done. Can you name one policy difference?
Well, listen, again, the contrast I am focused on, Kristen, is between her and Donald Trump. And on that, I think it is clearly different.
So, just to reiterate, the reason why this question keeps coming up for the Harris campaign is because Biden's unpopularity can be a real liability for her in the election. In fact, in mid-September, the Democratic Research and Polling Initiative Blueprint conducted a national poll that tested various potential statements that Harris could make about herself and Biden. Those that performed best, the polling found, were those that displayed a clear break between her and Biden, while those that performed worst were those that portrayed a future Harris administration as building on the accomplishments of the Biden era. But any mention of Biden, the polling found, led to less support even if the position it had Harris taking was the same.
Yeah, so Biden is toxic. That hurts Democrats' feelings so much that they want to say, no, it's not. I never believe any numbers if they come out against us. I don't believe. Guys, you're going to lose the election if you don't recognize the reality.
Cenk is spot on here. Democrats refuse to admit that Biden is toxic and Harris is indistinguishable from him. Shapiro's attempt to deflect and spin the narrative only highlights how desperate the party has become. Voters want to see a break from Biden's failures, not a continuation of them. Shapiro defending Harris's status quo shows just how disconnected the Democrats are from reality.
So let me give you suggestions as to what she could do, because we always try to be constructive. The first start with the thing that she's not going to do, even though I think it would almost guarantee her the election. If she said, hey, listen, Israel killed every leader of Hamas and every leader of Hezbollah. If they don't withdraw now from Gaza, I'm going to and sign a ceasefire, I'm going to stop the funding. If she did that, she'd pick up about 5 points and she would lock in Michigan. Yep. She would win. But she won't do that because she thinks following her donors' commands are more important than winning this election. And
this is the crux of it. Harris and the Democratic leadership are too beholden to their donors to make the bold moves they need in order to win. Harris and the Democratic leadership were too bolden to their donors to make the bold moves they needed in order to win. Uyger nails it here. It's not about the voters, it's about pleasing the elite. And guess what? The voters see right through it. And because of that, the Democrats lost not just the 2024 election, but the trust of the entire generation.
God, you should hold her accountable for that. That is unbelievable that she's making that decision. But every politician in America, unfortunately, does that. They've lost their minds, if you ask me. Okay, but put that aside because she's not going to do it. Then you go to immigration. You could be honest. And this is a real risky strategy because politicians don't like being honest. But you could say, hey, listen, we tried a certain thing on immigration. And even though we did this, and this right, and we had the right intent, it wound up causing a lot of new immigrants into the country because of the turmoil that was going on in Venezuela and some other Central American countries. But we've learned that lesson. So what I would do differently than Joe Biden is what I'm proposing now about how to control immigration. And the good news is that the Republicans agree. It was written by a Republican senator from Oklahoma. The only person who doesn't agree is Donald Trump. And he's the one that blocked that legislation. We're trying to fix what went wrong. You You should be happy that we're doing that. And that is different than what we did in the Biden administration in the middle that caused the problems. That is me learning from it and being a better leader because of it. But all of her consultants will tell her, no, don't be honest. Don't admit that you did anything wrong. Don't ever say that Biden did anything wrong. Let's all pretend that everything is great. But that's not credible. Look at the polling we showed you earlier in the show. Immigration is one of the top reasons that people are going towards Trump instead of Kamala Harris. Imagine if she was honest about it. But even if you don't want to take that risk, I can give you 1,000 other ones. Paid family leave, public option. And you could say, hey, Joe Biden, I'm sure he had the right intent that when he proposed the public option on the campaign trail, but unfortunately he ran out of time and he'd never proposed it as legislation. I will propose it as legislation because you need to at least have an option that isn't private health insurance that lets you die if you don't have health insurance. God, that would be an incredibly popular message. Look at all these layups, and they're not taking any of them.
This video highlights a glaring issue with the Democrats. They are out of touch and doubling down on failing policies, which is the entire reason they lost. Kasparian and Uygur are spot on in calling out Shapiro's hollow arguments. If Harris and her team took a harder look in the mirror, maybe 2024 would have worked out differently. By the way, be sure to leave down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with a lot of the points made here. Also, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, really helps out the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.